Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us here online. My name is Geoffrey Boucaud. I'm CTO and Strategy Officer at Valeo. I'm here with Jean-Luc.
Good morning to everyone. I'm Jean-Luc Paola-Galloni, Corporate Vice President, Sustainable Development.
So we are here both today to present our carbon neutral commitments and a strategy to making them a reality. Well, if there are just two things you should take away from our presentation, is that first, Valeo is committed to achieving carbon neutrality by 2050. And second, we will be 45% of the way there by 2030. 45% in less than 10 years. As you can well imagine, for us to be able to announce such ambitious commitments today, we haven't exactly been waiting around for the latest standards to start working this issue. How did we get there? Well, it all started 10 years ago. On March 2010, at his first Investor Day after his appointment as CEO of Valeo, Jacques Aschenbroich announced, over the next decade, our growth driver will be the reduction of CO2 emissions. Valeo's strategy was clear. What has happened since then? Over the past 10 years, Valeo Group has invested more than 10 billion euros in technologies that reduce CO2 emissions. Thanks to this vision and those capital outlays, Valeo is today the world leader in automotive electrification, both in low-voltage solutions and high-voltage solutions through its JV with Siemens. We currently have an absolutely unique portfolio of technologies covering every segment and all uses. Simply put, today, 1 in 3 new vehicles worldwide is fitted with one of Valeo's electrical systems that help to reduce CO2 emissions. Our sales from technologies that lower CO2 emissions have grown 20-fold in 10 years to around 10 billion euros in 21. 10 billion euros in 21. These technologies currently account for 57% of the group's revenues. Well, thanks to the efforts of Valeo and the entire automotive industry, electric vehicles are seeing rapid take-up and have had a breakthrough, I think we can say that, in 2020, with more than 40%, 43% increase in growth in EVs and plug-in hybrids globally at the worldwide level. And even more impressive, I think, in Europe, an increase of 143% increase. And so I think, Jean-Luc, we can talk about a boom in electrification.
Yes, Geoffrey, absolutely. We can really use the word boom for electrification. And of course, as well as developing these electrification technologies, we've been deploying a comprehensive program to attenuate the impact of our operations on the environment. In just over 10 years, we've cut our water use by almost half and reduced our energy and packaging use by nearly a third.
Well, this comprehensive program cuts across the entire ecosystem, covering both our technologies and the way we design and produce them. And this holistic approach has led all the leading rating organization indices to recognize Valeo as the most sustainable automotive equipment manufacturer in the world today. You may have seen that Corporate Knights last week ranked Valeo as the most sustainable company in the automotive sector among the world's 100 most sustainable listed corporations, all sectors combined. This latest distinctions follows on from the rankings by non-financial rating agencies such as SAM, MSCI, ISS ESG, or Sustainalytics. All of them place Valeo at the top of the automotive industry in terms of sustainability. Even Carbon Disclosure Project, CDP, gave us the highest possible score. What now? Well, now we aim to push ahead. And most importantly, we are going to go faster. In less than 10 years, Valeo's CO2 emissions across its entire value chain will be reduced by nearly 45%, from nearly 50 million metric tons of CO2 to fewer than 28 million metric tons in 2030. This includes the work of our suppliers, our operating activities, and the end use of our products. Why are we doing this? Because we have a goal, a real commitment to offer safer, more electric, and therefore more sustainable mobility.
Clearly, in less than 10 years, we are undertaking to reduce the following emissions. First of all, we are going to reduce the emissions from our operating activities by 75%, the so-called scopes 1 and 2 in sustainable development. Then we're going to tackle the upstream scope 3 emissions related to our supply chain, and we're going to reduce them by 15%. Then we're going to reduce the downstream scope 3 emissions related to the end use of our products by 15% as well. This reduction even reaches almost off 50% if we include the emissions that our electrification technologies help to avoid when fitted on our customers' vehicles. By 2050, we're going to commit ourselves to achieve carbon neutrality in all our operations worldwide and across our entire global supply chain, and also in every aspect of our business in Europe, including the end use of our products. Valeo's approach is aligned with the standards issued by Science Based Targets Initiative, so-called SBTi, which provides companies with a clearly defined path to reduce CO2 emissions in line with the objective to limit global warming to 2 degrees Celsius. Valeo is also a signatory of the Business Ambition for 1.5 degrees Celsius campaign that brings together companies like us committed to achieving carbon neutrality by 2050 in line with the SBTi standards. So how are we going to get there? A vision has to be backed by resources and actions and monitored figures. Otherwise, it's just pie in the sky. So once more, let me distinguish between 2 things, the processes and the products. First, for the processes, are initiatives to reduce the footprint of our operations, where we're going to invest nothing less than our 400 million euros by 2030 to transform our production plants and our energy procurement. Second, I come to the products, the impact of our technologies, where we're going to continue to invest several billion euros over the next decade to develop our technologies that support cleaner and safer mobility. Billions of investment, ladies and gentlemen. To attenuate the impact of our operations, we're going to increase the proportion of our purchased energy generated from low carbon sources from, listen to that, 5.5% in 2019 to 80% in 2030. A number of our centers of excellence are already piloting renewable energy solutions, including, for example, our 3 sites in Chennai in India, 90% of whose energy is wind-powered. Our sites, another example in India, in Sanand, which use their own solar facilities to produce 30% of the energy they consume. And finally, another example, the plant in Bad Rodach in Germany, which self-generates 20% of its electricity from its on-site solar panels. So by 2030, hundreds of our most carbon-intensive facilities will have been completely transformed into highly efficient sites. This is going to involve what in particular? Well, First of all, the more widespread use of LED lighting, which is already being deployed in our facilities. Second, the installation of systems to recover heat from our in-plant compressors and furnaces for reuse in other applications, as this is already the case in our plants, for example, in Czech Republic in the Rakovník site, or in China in Jingzhou site. Then furthermore, the installation of more energy-efficient furnaces, and finally, the installation of insulation systems. These initiatives are focused on our most carbon-intensive facilities, with a regional approach that will reduce emissions by 2025 by an average annual that I will here detail regionally according to our footprint in the world. We'll work on minoring from 1,500 metric tons per year and per facility in China, 1,250 tons per year per facility in the rest of Asia and Eastern Europe, 1,000 metric ton per facility and per year in North America, and finally, a reduction of 500 metric tons per year and per facility in Western Europe. This being said, our carbon neutral commitment also covers the work we have to do for our more than 1,000 suppliers around the world. They will be assigned CO2 emission reduction targets and receive support from us throughout this process. It is a huge task, and it's part of our role. Indeed, it is part of Valeo's role as an industry leader to drive change and progress across what we would call our entire ecosystem, Geoffrey.
You're right, Jean-Luc. So I think you've described the huge task we have to cover with our suppliers as well as with our operations. And I think now we also have to think with our technologies. And here we are going to pursue work on two major pathways to reduce their end-use footprint. First one, continuing to design and develop new technologies that directly help to reduce mobility-related carbon emissions. And second, optimizing our products in use phase by reducing their weight, for instance, in using lighter materials, and optimizing their energy consumption. Well, naturally, those technologies directly will reduce CO2 emissions from automotive. But now they are becoming more impactful as they can be fitted on all new forms of mobility, especially those set to see rapid expansions in towns and cities. By 2030, to give you some examples, 100% of kick scooters will be electrified. 65% of bikes will be e-bikes. 95% of two-wheelers like scooters, and 95% of three-wheelers. Our technologies go beyond. They are even capable of injecting unused electricity back into city power grids. Thanks to Valeo technologies, cars will become an integral part of a city's power grid. For the first time, what did we do? For the first time, we've calculated the benefit of our electrification technologies bring to the environment. By 2025, our onboard technologies will help to avoid the release of around 10 million metric tons of CO2 compared with 2019. Given the trend we have seen towards vehicle electrifications, those technologies will help to avoid 20 million metric tons of CO2 by 2030. It's an acceleration, a formidable acceleration, 20 million metric tons. What does that mean? To give you an idea, that's the equivalent to 3.5 years of emissions from the city of Paris. So I think we can say this is not just about greenwashing, it's really green changing. And we are really helping to change things. That's Valeo's mission, to electrify mobility. I think you have understood that the commitment we're undertaking with you today is very serious. Achieving carbon neutrality is a critical challenge and one that we're tackling head-on. It requires a major transformation, a huge task for a group like us, which has nearly 200 plants worldwide and more than 1,000 suppliers across the globe, and which equips tens of millions of vehicles every year. But as we already began the process a long time ago, we will succeed and will be well on the way to achieving our objective by 2030. Thanks a lot for joining us. On our website, you will find a detailed presentation of our objectives and the strategy to meeting them. Naturally, Jean-Luc and myself would now be happy to answer any questions you may have. For that, I think you just have to call the number you now see on your screens. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.